welcome back to Sisters from Another Mister. Today we are going to do a very quick meal prep that will be less than 10 minutes, and we're using items that are left over in our fridge or our pantry. So this is just a great meal prep for those days when you really want to stick to your plan for the next day, especially if you're going to be out of the house, in the office, but don't have time to do a full meal prep for the week. So this is one day using leftover items. So one of my favorite things to do is make overnight oats for breakfast, because it literally takes 2 seconds. And I make a really simple recipe. So I like to use old-fashioned oats, so I like the bigger pieces of oatmeal, but you can also do this with steel-cut oats and even like the quick oats, but I just like the texture of these. So you need that, you need almond milk, and then I like to add cinnamon and then espresso, and you can find these really cool like espresso cups at your grocery store, and then a sweetener. So typically I use maple syrup, but agave nectar also works really well, and it's pretty simple. So we're just going to, I like to take my little glass Tupperware container, and we're going to take our oatmeal. And usually I try to do like about a half a cup to 3/4 a cup of oatmeal. So here we go. I would say this is about a half a cup here. And then what I like to do is I will add in my little cup of espresso here. And I'm a huge coffee lover, so that's why I like this. It just adds a little bit of extra flavor in there for 0 calories, which is really nice. And then you add about a tablespoon of agave nectar. So I'm actually going to do a little bit more, around like the teaspoon. And then you add your almond milk. And so when you pour your almond milk in, obviously you can do exact measurements. So usually it's about like half a cup to 3/4 a cup. Just depends on how like thick or runny you like yours. I like mine in the middle. So usually I just pour in the almond milk so that way it covers the oatmeal. There you go. And then to finish off the flavor, I like to add a little bit of cinnamon. So I just put a dash on top. There we go. And then from here, let's see, we're simply just going to mix this up, because you want to make sure that agave nectar gets in there, that the espresso and the cinnamon, and that's just going to give you a really nice flavor for the next day. So then you close this up, and you'll simply pop in the fridge, and that's your breakfast. And so you can eat this cold, but I usually like to heat mine up for like 1.5 minutes the next day, because I like warm oatmeal. So there you go. Breakfast is complete. So I usually try to put my snack as some form of fruit, because that's my favorite, and you also really want to be careful about your portion. So I have this nice little small container, and I'm going to go with like a berry, so I really like blueberries. So you should do like 1/4 a cup to 1/2 a cup of berries. You don't want to do too much of this, because that's when you can really inflate your sugar levels during the day. So I like to put that just in a nice container, and berries are nice because they're already picked. You just put them in the container and you can go. So let me do that. And then I also like to pair that with some form of like protein or healthy fat. So there's these almonds here. And again, with nuts, you really want to be careful with the amount that you're eating. So pay attention to the back of your bag and see what a serving is, because it's really easy to overdo that. And these can be really high in calories. So a serving of these is about 28 almonds. So you can kind of eyeball it a little bit. I think, here we go. That's about a serving of almonds. So keep that in mind when you do prep that. And then when you have, you know, your almonds plus your berries, like it's a pretty nice like hearty meal, and as you're working you can kind of like pick at it and snack on it. So super, super easy to set up. Another option you could do is you could kind of swap out the almonds for something like berries and Greek yogurt. That's also a really good option there. So now on to lunch. One of my favorite things to do is to prep salads in mason jars. I like to do that because, one, they're pretty like sealed tight, and it's nice because depending on how you put this in there, and I like to use kale in my salads, I can definitely like shake this up beforehand, have the dressing really like marinate that kale, so that way by the time I pour it out, it makes a really pretty salad. It's nice and marinated and ready to go, and it takes up less space in your fridge. So the trick to doing, you know, mason jar salads is by the way you layer your ingredients. So you want to start with things that can have a lot of dressing and not soften up. So usually you put your proteins toward the bottom, then start adding in your toppings, and then you finish with like your lettuce or your kales. So what I'm going to do, especially since this is what we have left over, is I made drumsticks for lunch today, Sunday, for lunch. And so I'm going to take one of these and use that chicken for my salad. So that way I can kind of have one meal do double duty. So I have my cutting board here, and I'm just going to take one of these, there you go, and just really pull apart that chicken. And what's nice too is usually, you know, when you're making your drumsticks, this has really good flavor. You could also, oh hi, there's my dog. You could also use like a rotisserie chicken and use that in there. And that'll give you some pretty good flavor here. So let me just get this off here. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Here, watch out, let's go back. Go away. And then I personally like to dice this up, but obviously you can have as big of pieces as you want. There we go. That's good right there. And so you're, like I said, you're going to put your meat here at the bottom. Okay. Perfect. So now that we've got that set up, you're going to add your toppings. So I like to add like a nut to my salad. So I have pine nuts here. Hi, hey you. Scoot back. Can you sit for me? I like to add pine nuts, and then I also have some cherry tomatoes and green onions set up. So I'm going to toss these in here. And again, you're just kind of creating a pile on top of whatever you've added before. It's almost like a layered dip. Get some there. Let's see. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so that's all the toppings I'm going to add. And usually this is something I've learned after doing it for a while, is try to keep your meat and protein and toppings to about half of your jar, and then you're going to fill up the rest of it with your lettuce, whatever you choose. And so here's some kale I've already taken off. I personally like to take all of the leaves off of the stems and not include those portions, because that just gets pretty tough and hard to chew. So let's go ahead and just do this. And then because this obviously takes up a lot of mass, feel free to just stuff that in their jar. There you go. Perfect. So now you can make sure you got your greens, otherwise you'll end up with a lot of toppings and no lettuce, so you don't want that to happen. And then the final step is I like to make my sauces from scratch. There you go. So I want to do kind of a balsamic dressing with this. I think that would make sense. And so for that, I just use an olive oil, balsamic vinegar, a little bit of lemon juice, and then to cut the acidity, I use a little bit of agave nectar. So, to do that, you're going to do, I would say about a teaspoon of olive oil. Go. And then I like to put about 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar in there because, again, this doesn't have a lot of calories, but it has a lot of flavor. So I usually try to go more heavier on the balsamic vinegar than I do the oil. Okay. Then we're just going to add a dash of lemon juice here. There you go. And then to cut how potent the vinegar can be, I add just a little bit of agave nectar. And I found that makes a pretty good, big difference there. And honestly, I would say if you're going to go off in measurements, it's about half a teaspoon. So then you just mix that up. There you go. And all you do now to finish off the jar is you just sprinkle this over there. So then what I like to do, because obviously kale can be really tough, put that, top on there, and you just shake it up. So you can see the dressing goes all the way to the bottom. It's at the top with the kale, and you can see everything here is nice and coated and will be marinated overnight. Super easy. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is our afternoon snack. So I like to go with something that is not very high in sugar because this is usually at the point in time when your sugar levels are crashing. So I like to eat my snack around 3. So it's really tempting to like want to get that, but try to go with something that's more like heavy in like protein or like a healthy fat. So I like to use hummus and then something that's already preset. So like, okay, these snap peas. However, do not take the whole hummus container because obviously that can be really dangerous. So try and find like a little small container that you can use. And you're just want to take like a small portion. So let's see, where did my spoon go? There you go. So I have this little itty bitty container here. And I'm going to take like 2 tablespoons worth of hummus. There you go. Perfect. That's pretty much all you need. That's your serving. I put that in my small container here. And then, obviously, like all the stores have lots of veggie options. I personally like snap peas because I like them by themselves too. And again, I mean, obviously, like you can eat, I would say you can eat all the greens that you want, but it's always nice to kind of give yourself a portion. So that way you're not just constantly eating. So I just take about 2 handfuls of these. And again, I personally give myself snack bags, so otherwise I'll go crazy and fill the bags all the way up. Perfect. There you go. So, there you go. We have our breakfast. We have our morning snack, which we did the berries and the almonds. And then we have our lunch, which is nice and marinating here in this. We have our hummus and our veggies. And that's a quick meal prep that you can do every day. So give this a shot, see what you think. Obviously you can change up the dressings, you can change up your morning snacks, the type of nuts, the type of fruit. But this is something super quick, fast, and simple you can do late at night if you haven't had time to go to the store. So if you have any questions about ways you can prep on the fly like this and just using leftovers, feel free to leave us a comment below. We're happy to comment back and give any tips that we've had. And remember to subscribe and like our channel. Stay tuned for the next video. See you guys.